Welcome back to News Talk. 14 before the hour now. If you are enjoying these unusually warm temperatures, you're not alone. Last weekend was magnificent, and next week's outlook, when you consider this is mid to late December, it's also pretty good, although it appears our chances of a white Christmas are pretty close to zero. We're delighted to have meteorologist Josh Knight stop by with to talk about the weather. This is weather. I mean, we're always talking about the weather. These warm temperatures where people are outside in shirt sleeves, folks as far north as Maine have been out playing golf. I mean, that's how broad and how mild.
And I was going to say, now there's the viral video of the guy in Chicago running around shirtless with, 900 new friend requests and everything else. So it really is unseasonable, but it's something that I feel like over the last few Decembers we've almost gotten used to. I know last year at least we had temperatures that were well above average for December. So far this year we're doing it, but last year, if you remember, December was mild, was great, and then everything kind of went downhill after that.
Except for we say downhill, but some people want the winter experience.
This is true.
Some people want snow,
right.
Some people don't. But it's one of the nice things about living in a four-season area is you do get to experience all the different weather.
Well, and I think that's exactly what people are saying. I'm on Facebook and Twitter kind of getting a mixed review, like it's about time it cools off, that sort of thing. But a lot of folks saying, I think it was about a 50-50 split, maybe a little more favor for the warmer weather of it doesn't have to be cold to feel like Christmas.
What is bringing so much mild air into our region?
And we've just been kind of stuck in this same pattern where we get a kind of high pressure down farther to the southeast, a ridge force. Let me see if I can pull up one of these weather graphics. I think I have the right one in there. And it just allows us to get all that warmer air pumping in. So that's what we had this weekend, but that is finally going to break down for us as we work our way into this coming weekend. And you'll notice that white line there in the middle, that 47 to 46, that's our average for this time of year, this week. And you can see we've been easily above average. Actually, every day in December so far has been above average, but by this weekend we're finally going to dip below. So El Nino is certainly a big player when we talk about our overall winter weather pattern, but a lot of times it's just these small scales and we get kind of stuck, a ridge on one half of the country and a trough on the other, and that's basically what we had. You see these frigid temperatures for areas out California. We're talking Las Vegas. People are on the news in their mittens and their winter coats, and meanwhile we're here in the 60s.
And just over the last decade or so, we have had a real range of weather. We've had winters where it was almost like it never got really cold, and we didn't have hardly any snow. We've had winters, of course, where we've had back-to-back blizzards within a few days,
a week,
time, and Snowmageddon and all that. So this is an unpredictable area. Does the weather that we've had so far tell you anything or suggest anything about what January and February are going to bring?
I think what's interesting about it is it's kind of doing more or less what it was supposed to, which doesn't always happen, of course. And what they do is they look at these analog years, so basically years that had a similar fall, a similar sort of setup with the El Nino and those sort of patterns, and they try and pick out those best analogs to figure out, all right, this is what it might do in December, January, February. And so far, December is basically doing what it was expected. It's well above average. It's staying mild. And the trend this year is that January will be closer to average, and then February, if anything, would be below average. So if things continue the path they are, that they follow these previous analog years, and they go back to the 50s, the 60s to try and find these things that are very similar. And I say they because I'm certainly not a climatologist. I love to look at the stuff, read the stuff, but I predict much more on a week-to-week basis. So all things considered, it looks like that downward trend for January and then February is probably going to stay on track.
February could be chilly around here.
Yes, February would be chillier, and if you're picking when we might see those snowstorms, looks like February, March would probably be our more likely time frame.
And we have had significant winter weather relatively deep into the season.
Oh, yes.
One year I had to move on St. Patrick's Day, and there was a blizzard, and so that one is burned, if you will, into my memory.
St. Patrick's, that's always one of those fun holidays because you can have a day where it's, oh my gosh, we hit 80 degrees. How did this happen? And then one year, it's like you said, snowfall. So it's always interesting.
And in terms of, so we've been talking a lot about temperatures, whether or not we have a wet meaning potentially rain, potentially snow, potentially mix, what have you, how much precip we get, that's all to be determined.
Right. And in general, for us, when we have an El Nino year, but that again, it's kind of a hard concept to really understand, because El Nino is all about the ocean water in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So we're talking halfway to Asia, that water being warmer than normal, but it makes a difference on global patterns, global cycles. And for us, what it typically means is that we do get more wet weather. So the big question is just if the cold air is there to greet the wet weather or not. So the way it looks is that December, no, and it hasn't been so far. It doesn't look like it's going to. But as we get toward January and February, that's when the colder air likely will be dipping down to meet the wet weather. It's just a matter of timing.
And a lot of times just focus on the jet stream. How much does the air that arrives here swing to Canada prior to making it to the mid-Atlantic, bringing us that real chill, right?
Right, exactly. So, and that's what the El Nino gets all the buzz, but it's really about these two other, the NAO and the Arctic oscillations, so the AO. And what happens is they really, when they're kind of, I guess, moving quickly, when they're strong, they basically hold all of the cold air up at the top of the globe. But then when they weaken, when they go negative is what we call it, they basically allow some of that cold air to start to plunge down into parts of North America, essentially. And that's what we kind of think will happen more once we get into January and February.
So this coming weekend, a lot more seasonal than those terrific warm temperatures that we had last weekend. And as we get into the Christmas Day time period, not likely to be white unless you've thrown something in the yard.
Yes, exactly. You'll have to take care of that manually.
But for folks who have travel plans, and many people do, you think we'll be okay?
It looks better around this half of the country, and that'll be the big thing. It looks like we're going to kind of swing back into that same setup that we had earlier this week, where it's warm in the east, but then on the west you're probably dealing with some of those cooler temperatures. And it's just because, like you said, that jet stream just kind of gets this big dip and then a big rise over by us. So, but around here, I think the long range stuff is pointing more toward temperatures back into the around 60 degrees for Christmas.
Isn't it amazing?
It is. So hey, all those toys that you think you might have to wait until spring to use, hey, take them out there Christmas Day.
And if we look outside on the night of the 24th, perhaps late into the evening, and we see Santa and he's got a windbreaker on, we'll know why, because it's just not that cold.
Just pretty mild.
Yeah, all right. We'll be watching for the forecast. Decent till we get into the weekend, very seasonal. Like you showed us that 47, 46 line. That is the normal high for this time of year, and we're heading right into that zone.
Yep, we'll be just below, so to feel more like Christmas shopping for the weekend.
All right, not too bad. All things considered. Meteorologist Josh Knight, thanks very much for stopping by. We'll talk with you again. Step aside. We're back with a News Talk program note right after this.